Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment on the Weekend Show, brought to you by Hollow Crunch Popcorn. Hello, Didi.
Hi, good
How
morning.
was your week?
It was good, productive actually.
So we've had quite an interesting week. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has hit the ground running.
Yes.
Appointment of 8 special advisors, Access to Tertiary Education Act signed into law, which is the students' loan. And some people say power supply is getting better. What's your assessment so far?
Power supply 100% better. Yes, I've been enjoying that.
Interesting. It's good
Mm-hmm.
to know that's happening, and we must give credit where it is due. Talking
Absolutely.
about credit, the president signed the Access to Tertiary Education Act just this week. It's also being called the Students' Loan Act. However, there's been various reactions. One of the conditions of the loan is that the family of the recipient shouldn't earn more than 500,000 naira per annum. What happens to a family where they have 4 children in university? There's also a condition which states that the student or the parent must not have defaulted when it comes to any previous loans. Should the children suffer as a result of the parents defaulting, or should it be tied only to the student? We also have the part where the vice chancellor has to sign the loan request for every student. What does that do about the bureaucratic processes which we find already in schools where it takes months for certain documents to be signed? This and more we will be trying to find out on today's show. And joining us we have.
We have Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who is the ASU president.
Good morning, Prof, and welcome to the
Good
Weekend Show.
morning. Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you on our show, and we will get straight into it. The Access to Tertiary Education Act has been signed by the President, which speaks to students' loan in Nigeria. I understand that there are different reactions to it at the moment. What's the position of ASU on this law?
Thank you very much. But ASU really have not got a copy of that law so that you can completely review it. But from what we are hearing from the media, that will not solve the problem. And the reasons are very clear. Like you rightly said, any parents, that is father and mother, earning above 500,000 naira per annum cannot have access to that loan. Invariably, what that means is that every civil servant children cannot have access because the minimum wage is 30,000 naira per month, which is 306,000 per annum, times 2, which is 720, which means all civil servants will not have access to it. And the implication is that all those who earn beyond the minimum wage, the question will ask, how would they have access to guarantor who should have a civil servant on level 12 or a lawyer? So those are the crises we are going to see. And that is why when as a union we are talking about that when you are coming to such a thing, there should be a negotiation by all those involved so that you can come back with an alternative that is far better than loan. That is our own deal. There's alternative that will be better than giving loan to children of people who earn less than 500,000 naira per annum. How would they pay back? 2, the ceiling, the upper ceiling of the loan was not indicated. And 4, it also indicated that this loan would be purely for the payment of tuition fees. But if you look at the system today, there's no tuition fees in any federal universities. But invariably, there's going to be the introduction of tuition fees. So those who cannot have access to this, who earn 500,000 naira per annum, how will they pay that tuition fee? So there needs to be an openness. Let everybody know exactly what is happening so that people will know where they stand on this issue. I hope you are following me.
Yes, yes. Professor, how would this affect the educational sector in general in Nigeria?
It will have, for me, it will have no effect on the system. And I'll tell you why. In 1972, the federal government promulgated this Education Bank Bill Act. And it didn't work. Even those who collected, it didn't pay back. You can check. Go and do the history, it's there. In 1993, I'm sorry, the military then promoted a Decree 50 of June 1993, also to create education bank. Within 2 years, it was destroyed. The money there was stolen, and no student got a loan, and it was closed. Similarly, in next year, ASU met with government, Babangida government, I would say instead of loan, let's tax the profit of companies. 2%. That's the origin of what you have as TET fund today. So in 1993, they came with a decree saying introduce loan, which didn't work. But in 1994, we came with this proposal, and the government then accepted it after doing a negotiation, and that is in TET fund. Today, did you hear of the impact of the loan? But go to any university today, polytechnic education, you see the impact of what we told the government, we agree with the government to do, which is tax the company 2%, which has now moved to 3%. And you can see the impact on the system. One would have believed that if it should have been well discussed by all the parties who cannot fully pay 20%, why don't we channel this fund 1% from FRO collected revenue, 1% from custom? Why don't we channel it as a funding means for universities instead of making it loan? No bureaucracy. No people will be collecting this money at a salary where they are not doing anything, and so forth. So money goes to the educational system, and then you have a better impact. So that is the view. But like I said, as a union, we're going to look at the whole bill, go through it, and then we'll respond appropriately. But we believe that as at this level, student loan alone are not tied to tuition fee. I don't know. We need to get it. What's the meaning of tying this loan to paying of tuition fee? Does it mean that government is going to introduce tuition fee, and what's the amount? The public need to know so that they can react appropriately.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just before we let you go, over the years we've had conversations around university autonomy. Most people also fear that this student loan would lead to tertiary institutions increasing tuition fees and all other sundry fees which students are paying or will be paying. But regarding autonomy, what's your position with this new administration when it comes to tertiary institutions having financial autonomy?
We said autonomy, not financial autonomy. When you go to key government establishments today, the central bank, the money generated by the central bank is public money, it's our money. Money generated by NNPC is Nigerian money, former NNPC. Money generated by all of them, they have government money. The autonomy is that there is a law passed by National Assembly, accepted to by the president, to say Nigeria will have autonomy, and that law defines what the autonomy is. In that law, there is a governing council appointed by the visitor, who is the president, which means you are the one appointing the governing council to run the public university that will benefit the interests of our children, of Nigerian youth. So it's not about private universities, it's about public universities. What we are saying is that this issue about financial autonomy, why what would that University Miscellaneous Act of what each person should contribute and who should run the system? That autonomy is still being run by a committee set up by the visitor. But how that institution be run is where it's stated there. Not that the salary will be paid for a Nigerian office. Employment should be made to define how all this should be done. That what we are telling government, let's follow that autonomy that have been proposed by National Assembly and follow it. Autonomy is well defined there. We keep on talking the autonomy all over the world. Mention one public university in the world with financial autonomy fully. I mean public universities.
Prof, thank you so much for your contributions. We will await your ASU's official position when you've reviewed the act, and so we will get you back on the show at a later time to hear the official position. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have Mukhtar Modibo, who is the Secretary General Follow the Money International here with us in the studio, and we're still talking on the Student Loan Act. Could you share your thoughts on this? Do you agree with the Prof that there are really no benefits so far to the act?
Yeah, so I don't want to be in between, but the truth is, right, as a young person and as a student, we're all here for this thing. I think I want to be in the part of government as well as part of a young Nigerian coming from an average family. Now, if you look at the loan, it's more of like, the bill is more of like a campaign promise that was made and then fulfilled, that's the only valid thing about the bill for me, from my own side. Now, if you come to the bill is a good thing. I mean, some other countries are doing in Africa. Kenya is doing something like that. It's called HELP. But our own side is, if I earn 50,000 in a family of 6, we're 6 in our family. If I earn 50,000 in a year, that means I earn up to 600. That's, my family is not part of the whole thing. And if there is no lawyer in my family that has post-call of 10 years, automatically the loan is not for me. And if there is no someone that is up to level 12 in my family, the loan is not for me. And that's not the big part of the question of the loan. The big part is, we understand Nigeria issues of unemployment, right? If you look at the records, we have massive numbers of unemployed youth, right? And the bill says repayment plan is 2 years post-service. That's 2 years after service. I know of someone personally that has spent over 4 or 5 years after service that is not yet employed. Then what do you do to him? You take him to jail. Now, I'll come back to what Andy said around, okay, if your family is known for defaulting any loan scheme or anything like that, you cannot access it. And understanding, to see a vice chancellor of a university, I just did a campaign around Save One, Save All, trying to call people to take vaccine, and we decided to go to universities to, inform young people in the schools and what have you. To see a vice chancellor, it takes us almost a month to see a vice chancellor. So how many students does University of Nigeria in Nsukka or Ahmadu Bello University Zaria have that will want to access the loan, and they will follow through one person, which is the VC, right? Now, if you keep that aside, now come back and talk about what will the loan come up to that. We're not talking about the loan is going to be disbursed by a bank, an education bank that is yet to be established. So when will that bank be established? What is the modalities? And then how will the people get this disbursement? Because there is approval, and there is request, there is the signing by the school, and then there is approval before disbursement. So if you're waiting for the loan, there is no waiting period. Does that mean you stay and your school session will be moving while you're waiting to access the loan? So the thing is, I have to say, the new government is trying to set up agenda. It's trying to set up pathway. As a young person that understand process, that want to see process work, we are looking at what they are trying to do, and then we're wishing them the best of luck. But this, I think, is something that is being criticized by people. And as a progressive government, all you need to do is to look inward and see it's a law being made by you, right? And being made by a house. Can we bring back this and sit together, bring all stakeholders in the sense that bring the student, bring the ASU, bring the staff union and every other person, sit down in one table, discuss about the modalities, right? And let's see how we can do. And just so you know, there is nothing like tuition fee presently in the country. So will that loan bring the point of that very fee, which is a problem, right? And if I come back to what Prof was saying, it's a valid reason around the minimum wage. I tell you, there are states that are not paying the minimum wage up till today, right? So if people are not, there are states that are not paying the minimum wage, automatically there are a lot of people that will fall into accessing the loan. But how much are they accessing, right? And then if they might have passed level 12 or level 13, what of the people that have retired, right? Maybe they retired at level 6 as a driver or something. So how will that person access the loan? And a family of 4 is trying to build his family, he retired, maybe all the 4 children are within the university system, right? Now, how do you get to that? So I think the best thing we can do, it's a good thing, right? We have to appreciate the government, that the government is thinking around education, because all we're trying to do is how can optimal institutional performance be recorded in governance, and how can people understand integral human development while benefiting from what government is trying to build. But I think we need to also look at what are the realities and what are the modalities of the seat law that we will get. Yeah.
So on the Twitter space here, yesterday, Kunle Shomoye, former special assistant to Femi Gbajabiamila, the now chief of staff, when he was speaker in the House of Reps, he sponsored this bill. And while we commend the new administration for the political will to sign some of these bills into law and to act on some of their campaign promises, we are now facing the question of implementation and the well thought out process where it goes beyond just signing. Because this Students' Loan Act, it is believed that it's meant to start by September. And like you've rightly said, the Education Bank hasn't been established. The fund and the budgeting hasn't been included in this year's budget, so we don't know how it will be funded. And interestingly, while reading the act, I found out that after going through all of this process, it is subject to availability of funds before you get paid. So you could go through the whole process, and if there's no funds, then you continue. Would there be some contingency which says that once a student is in the process, the student can write his exams and go to school? Because in most cases, the universities wouldn't let you write your exams if you haven't paid your fees. And so just before we let you go, what realistic steps should be taken to either amend this act or to ensure that it's implemented in a way where it doesn't fail like the one in the 70s?
Okay, so first of all, I need us all to understand 3 things, right? Government is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? And laws have beneficiaries, have enactors, and then have implementers, right? So if these 3 stakeholders can come and sit together, what are your fears? Yeah, what do you think we can use to implement this particular thing? And
sorry to interject, but when I mentioned this former special assistant to the chief of staff, he stated that they went around universities across the country to rally around universities and stakeholders. And so you're talking about stakeholders. And I'm now wondering who
what
they
I'm
meet.
saying is, going around universities, automatically they have seen few. Maybe seen university lecturers, professors that maybe have gotten into that. What happens to creating town hall meetings, right? We have legislators across all the states. This is when they were trying to bring out the bill, right? It was a political will to say, oh, okay, we need to soften or we need to put a palliative to this particular thing, which is a plus, a good thing, right? So now it's in place, but there are a lot of issues to it, right? So why don't we put up maybe a town hall meeting, right, where people that will benefit from this thing will come and say, okay, this is how this can be done. This is how this can be done. And then also, governance is all about, sharing ideas. So why don't we check around the people that are implementing this particular thing and come back and, sit down and look at our own realities, right? Because, I was having a conversation with someone today, and he asked me, how much was your full tank before? And I said it's 9,500, and now it's 24,000 something, right? So you see the changes. But if you ask me, I am happy the fact that that has been done. The only thing I am waiting for is what are the things that will be done with that said resources that we were benefiting from, but we don't longer benefit. We have to see it in a better system, a transport system. And so if you ask every Nigerian will be telling you, okay, this is what we want to see, this is what we want to see, this is how we want to see it. So it's better for us to begin to ask the people. So that's why I said, as a young person, I don't need to be considered as an observer. I need to be considered as someone that will also bring out the policy, and the policy will be heard, and the policy will be judiciously used. So can we get these people on board, the beneficiaries, that's the young people that will apply for this loan? How do you think these modalities can work? How do you think we can do this and this and that? Then if we're able to get all these things, we put it together and then make it work. But I will say lastly, it's a plus. That's to show that the government is thinking around education, which is good, but it has a lot of questions that need to be answered and a lot of modalities that need to be corrected so that we can achieve the benefit of what we're seeing as a palliative for our education sector.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Mukhtar,
for having
and
me.
to Prof. We will, because it's still early stages, we will give the government some time
Yeah.
to implement and see how it goes.
Yeah.
But we do hope that Follow the Money continues to hold the system and government and people accountable, and will also hold you accountable to know
Definitely.
how this is going. But thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you for
thoughts
having
on
me.
this. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, more on The Weekend Show.